Alright, hello everybody, welcome back. It is Jeff again, coming to you from the Minecraft Vanilla server. A lot of people are upset with me about not using the shield and having it on my hotbar. I guess at a minimum what I can do is I can put it there so that I can at least pull it up and then hit F quickly to put it in that hand if I need to, because I don't like the shield. I really don't like the shield. It's not a nice item to keep with you. It's just not. It's not pretty. It's ugly, and it blocks your field of view, so I don't like it for that reason. I'm gonna go through here and see if I can, how much of this edge that I can dig out here, because I want this to be a little bit easier to get down this part of the path. Did I open this whole thing up? Oh no, that was I was like, this thing looks a little open to me right now. It's because it was, but it wasn't my doing. And I want to get through this thing and make it look better and nicer and easier. That's really weird that you can just keep coming to the exact same spot where it's going to show you this particular chunk is going to have an error. I wonder if that's like a bug with this specific area that I happen to be in, or if it's a bug with the like snapshot in general. I'd be interested to find out. That'll source that all in. Okay. So anyways, today, as you guys know, I'm kind of one of those guys who, I'm for the people. I'm for my people especially. And by my people, I mean nurses. So let's, not talking about Miss America pageant. Well, yeah, hell, let's talk about the Miss America pageant for a minute. So, there's so much backlash that's already been given to that Jay, whatever her name is from The View, who was ridiculing the contestant for doing the talent of being a nurse. So, yeah, who wants a talent of being a nurse? Like, what a dumb talent. Let me clarify. In a way, I kind of agree. It's not exactly a talent per se. It's yes, I feel being a nurse is a talent in itself. I am a nurse. You guys know that I'm for the nurses. I love the nurses, and you know, I am one. You gotta love who you are and what you do. It being used as a talent was definitely a very interesting concept for Miss America, but I can get behind that. I'm fine with that. You utilize that as your talent, but I understand a little bit of the backlash that people had from the concept of just using that as saying it's your talent. I get why that's a little bit like hard for people to swallow. What I don't get is, just like every other nurse who completely spoke out in outlash about this, is the person from The View who made the comment, the initial comment, and this is just ignorance, because I don't think I really don't think that other people think this at all. I would be really baffled if they did actually, but think that stethoscopes are only for doctors. The fact that somebody in that type of position had the ignorance to state, why was she wearing a doctor's stethoscope, that actually does get under my skin a little bit, because that's just ridiculous. Not even just from the nursing profession. EMTs, paramedics, they all use stethoscopes as well. We're all trained to use them. You have to use them to do basic diagnostic things. Like, that was one of the most ignorant statements I have heard a celebrity make in that type of profession in a very long time. And yeah, that bothered me slightly. But anyways, that's not what I was here to talk about. But yay, Nurses Unite. Whatever about the hashtag. I was actually, I like the hashtag, but I did read an article that discussed something about the hashtag of Nurses Unite, and it was very strange, because it talked about the hashtag Nurses Unite that has really come out because of this whole thing. And I think it was actually started by the View host, if I recall, made the hashtag to support nurses. But I'd have to research that, so I can't be held accountable for that statement. I'm basically telling you right now, I'm not 100% sure that that's true. But after they basically made a comment in this news article about the hashtag, it said NNU representatives turned around and like said something. Basically, NNU is the National Nurses United. It's one of the big nursing unions that's really trying to take over the world. in not necessarily a good way, in my opinion. And that's talking from a nurse who was in the NNU for a long time, because my hospital is, you know, our union is the NNU. But it's one of those things that the way it made it sound, the article, just the way it continued on, it made me actually think that NNU are the people who started the Nurses United hashtag. And if it was truly started by NNU, I don't really have a belief that that hashtag was meant to be a, like, fair and let's all stand together. It was really meant, again, to push NNU's political agenda. I am very not pleased with NNU and their representation and the way that they go about doing things. And I've not been hidden about that previously in my episodes either. You can go back and look. I've definitely bashed the union for some things that they did while I was even in the union. I'm one of those people who I don't sugarcoat things, and I will speak my mind despite whether I'm part of your group or not. I've talked up at my fire department multiple times at company meetings going against the majority to explain that I don't agree with what we're doing, and these are the reasons why. I'm not afraid to speak my mind and say things about, like, my beliefs, but I have to understand that other people have their own beliefs as well. But that's one of the reasons I was elected to the trial board. When I was elected to the trial board originally, was because people looked at me as one of those figures who can look at multiple sides and is not afraid to stand up and actually say something when they feel that they need to say something, that I won't just go along with the majority if it's not the proper thing to do. And that's very well known about me. So I'm glad that's very well known about me, because I believe that's a good character to have, as long as it's done properly. I know many people who aren't afraid to speak their mind about anything in the world, but they don't care about other people's really consideration and thought on it, that they're right and you're wrong, and that's all there's going to be to it, and they won't even listen to anything that you're about to say. But either way, that got really off topic, because that's not what this episode was going to be about. It wasn't going to be about talking about that. What I was going to talk about was, I'm one of those people that I'm for the people, as kind of like I was just describing. And lately, I've been having to do the training for the emergency department staff on our computerized healthcare system, because even though I'm the director of the department, and technically training shouldn't be done by me because I have other things I'm supposed to be, like, focusing on. I mean, that's just the way that, you know, the world works on this side. Is training is can be an all-day event, and you don't want your director having to be focused on doing the training, and therefore they can't focus on some of the other things that need to happen from a higher level. Training is one of those things that's supposed to be delegated out, but I can't delegate out what other people don't currently know. They just don't know that product, because the person who did support that product has left the company. But either way, so I've been doing the training for the last couple weeks on it, and it's only been a couple trainings, but in doing this training, it is scheduled as an 8-hour training session. Now, our trainings usually don't take 8 hours. Very rarely do they take 8 hours. Usually it's more between the 4 and the 6 hour time frame that they take. However, I'm one of those people who I'm completely under the impression this is always the way it was before. I don't know if it was some unwritten rule, because that's why it's always, or the way it's always been done before, or if it's just really always, I'll get out of this corner, or if it's just how it's actually supposed to be. That I'm not 100% sure of. But the unwritten rule basically is that if you are scheduled to come in and do training for 8 hours, basically, you have blocked 8 hours off of your schedule in order to come in and make sure that you can accomplish the training that you're told that you have to accomplish. Now, if training happens to get out early, in my opinion, in my opinion, and this unwritten rule, that should not be a negative thing against you, meaning you should get paid for 8 hours still, because that's what you've allocated to do the training. And just because I got done teaching you the class earlier and let you leave, doesn't mean you shouldn't get paid for that time frame. Yes, I could keep you there in the training room, and we could just sit there and twiddle our thumbs or stick our thumbs up our ass if we wanted to. I don't know, whatever floats your boat at that point. If I'm going to make you stay there, I could make that happen, sure, but I don't. I don't think there's any reason to. And that's the philosophy that I've kind of always gone by with this. And as the director of the department, I kind of have the, not that the training comes out of my budget per se, but part of it does, because now my day is dedicated to training too, and I'm missing out on things from my department that I'm supposed to be doing to make sure that your employees are getting trained. And especially that, I mean, I will unfortunately say that does put a little bit of a rush on the training, which makes it get out even faster. And I'm hoping I'm not doing a disservice to people by having a faster training. Most people, their desire is for it to be faster, but hopefully they get as much out of training as they should. So somebody came up to me, one of the people who, she actually doesn't even deal with the payroll, which is why it's really confusing to me. Her job has nothing to do with, making sure people are paid and this and that. She's, a different job role. But she came up to me and says, Jeff, I need to know how long was your training a couple weeks ago? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, well, there's a discrepancy on the time reports. And I said, and I'm thinking, what do you mean by discrepancy on the time reports? Because the people I train don't clock in and out. You sign it off on a piece of paper what they did. I actually signed off their training when they got to training. I didn't wait till the end of training to sign it off. I signed it off when they got there, and it was slated for 8 hours. And that's, like I said, my philosophy is you're there expecting it to be an 8-hour long training class. You've knocked 8 other hours off your schedule. You're banking on the fact that you're going to be at work for 8 hours in order to pay your bills. Like I don't know how you're scheduling your day, but that's my thought process is you're expecting these hours because that's what you want. Now, if you got up and left training early because you said you couldn't stay, that's a different story. Then you are only going to get paid for the amount of hours that you were actually there for. But when I ended early and you have no other choice, then yeah, it's that you should get paid for the full day. And so I signed off their timesheets stating that they've been there for the 8 hours. And like I said, I hadn't even trained the class yet. I was just being proactive and making sure nobody forgot to get their sheet signed. And she said, there's a discrepancy, What time did you get done? You got done around noon, right? And I looked at her and I said, that training class, it's an 8-hour training class. And she goes, well, yeah, but it never takes 8 hours. And I said, but it's an 8-hour training class. That is what it's always been billed at. That's always what it's been paid out at. People are expected to block 8 hours off for it. Therefore, it's an 8-hour training class. She goes, yeah, I know. But, I mean, you weren't there for the full 8 hours. Like, what time did you let them go? I need to get the timing right. And I said, what? Well, that's crap. I said, I don't remember exactly what time we left. I said, if that's the case, 4 is the closest estimate I can give you. We left at 4 o'clock. And she goes, you were there till 4 o'clock? And I said, if you're saying that you're paying based on when I say that we were there until, I said, I don't know exactly when we left because I can't remember. It was a couple weeks ago. I didn't pay attention. I went back to my office. I had some other work to do. I was like, so yeah, if that's what you're going to say is that I have to give you an estimate on when it was 4 o'clock. She goes, okay, I guess I have to pay them for all that time then. And I was like, yep, it's an 8-hour training class. Like, that's exactly what it is. And I know some people are going to be watching this video and say, well, you're costing the company money. And no, I'm not costing the company money just because I'm a more effective and faster trainer than somebody else who could have been teaching the class. You get a slower trainer in there who takes 8 hours because the class is slated as an 8-hour class. Just because you get a faster trainer in there or a slower trainer that takes the full 8 hours, is that not but paying exactly what we were budgeted to pay? We're not losing the company money for that. So therefore, I'm not going to gain the company money by trying to rush through training, because I think that would bring up a whole different issue, is if that was considered saving the company money, I could easily just blow through training and not do a good job at training in order to save the company money, quote unquote. So I believe it's a very fair scale to be, it's paid out at 8 hours, no matter how long it takes you. It's like working on a car. Cars, those people get paid from like the factory and the dealership and stuff for warranty work. They get paid a certain number of hours per vehicle to fix these certain parts based on, this is what the manufacturer says the average amount of time it's going to take to fix this part. If it takes you 2 hours to fix something they say it takes 4, you still get paid for 4 hours of labor to fix that from the warranty. If it takes you 6 hours, you still get paid for 4 hours. Like, that's the thing is, I guess if training actually went for an extra couple hours, people would probably want to get paid extra because they're hourly employees and they were there. So I can see where that causes an issue, but that's not how it usually happens. How did I lose the entrance? I tried to come in from a long shot to the entrance. I wanted to see what it looks like, and I can't even see what it looks like because I'm an idiot and lost where the entrance is at by coming out in this mountain. So yeah, that's what I feel is the right philosophy to have. And I understand those who are going to be out there and be like, well, but it's the company dollar, it's not yours. And to an extent, I understand that saying, but I don't think it's really valid when given the circumstances I've just put forward with, explaining about, how it's like the car industry and things like that. Because that's how healthcare works as well, too. They pay, like insurance pays you for a procedure. Just because you had to use 3 different IVs, try 3 different times to start an IV, the patient doesn't get billed and charged 3 times. The hospital has to absorb that cost because they only get paid per that procedure. That's the way that it works. And that's my philosophy. Now, it's funny because I'm taking a class from the fire department right now. As some of you guys saw the video that I had posted online about it. Really cool for our little fire simulator. And, oh, is it over? It's right over here, isn't it? And the class is 3 hours a night. Well, there it is. It's 3 hours a night when we have class. And so it's a total of 45 hours because it's 15 classes. And, okay, this isn't it. I really thought that was it. That's not it. That's some other random cave. Where the heck am I? Okay, let's get on the surface here. And you're allowed to miss. Besides, there's a couple mandatory classes that you can't miss. It's like in this particular class, it's the midterm and the final. The 2 you have to be there for. You can miss other classes up to 4.5 hours worth of other classes. So it's a day and a half worth. It's based on a fraction of how long the actual class is. So because of the 45 hours, you can miss 4.5 hours because you can miss 10% of the classes to still like pass is what it is. And the instructor said the very first night we got in there, he says, I know this class is supposed to go till 10. It won't always go till 10. He goes, it goes until I'm done. Sometimes we're out of here at 8:30. Sometimes we're out of here at 9. Sometimes we're out of here at 10. He's like, that's just the way it is. And we said, cool. Now, there's the expectation on that if you let us out at 8:30, you don't make us come back for an hour and a half extra after the class is over, because that's not how it works. We all know that. You're counted as being there from 7 until 10 o'clock. Even if you physically leave at 8:30, we still are theoretically either studying the material or you're doing something. But those are the hours that are built into the class. It's like a college class. If a class gets canceled because of like inclement weather or something like that, you don't owe them back that class day. Like I never have when I was in college, to ensure you're making your credit hours. You have to work with it and find out other ways, but it's still all built into the system. You don't owe an extra class at the end of it to make up for it. This buddy of mine, it was so funny because he was thinking he was going to miss like the second day of class. Whoops. And on the second, so he went and asked the professor, or the instructor, how long are we going to be in class the next time we meet? And the professor just looked at him and said 2 hours or 3 hours. It's just class is a 3-hour class. And he goes, oh, okay, well, I'll see if it's going to be a full 3-hour class. I'm going to see if I can make some arrangements to make sure I am there to the class. Well, he made some arrangements and he ended up making it to the class. So I'm right over here. Where am I missing this at? So he made some extra arrangements to come to the class. It was one of those class days. We ended up getting out super early. We got out at 8:30. So class was only an hour and a half long. And when class ended, he looked at me and he goes, he told me it was going to be a 3-hour class. I made all these special arrangements to make sure I was here for this 3-hour class. He's like, I only would have missed an hour and a half worth of class. Like, I only would have had an hour and a half against me if I had missed this class. What a jerk for telling me it was going to be 3 hours. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, we can miss 4.5 hours. I only would have missed 1.5 hours if I missed today. I'm like, you do realize if you didn't come to class today, you would still be considered absent for 3 hours worth of class, right? And he's like, but no, we were only here for an hour and a half. And I was like, yeah, but if you want to go on that logic, if we're only here for an hour and a half, we owe an extra hour and a half to the class still to get the minimum number of hours in there. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. It just works that if I missed that much of class, I missed that much of class. My point is, you can't have it both ways. You have to understand that if you expect it to be a 3-hour class, and we're only there for an hour and a half because the instructor lets us out early, and we're not expected to make up that extra hour and a half, that if you miss a class, no matter how long we were there for, because we could have been there for 6 hours that night because it could have gone over. You don't miss 6 hours. You're not absent for 6 hours at that point. You're only absent for 3 because that's what the class is slated to be. We just got a lot too many people want to, excuse me, what is it? Have their cake and eat it too would be the saying. I don't like that saying. I think it's a pretty dumb saying, but it's too many people really do. It's always about what suits them the best is what it should be. My one buddy, he's so funny. He's having a problem with a college. He's in a master's program right now, and he's having a problem with the college, and he kind of expects that the advisor should be taking care of the problem for him, when in reality, he dropped a class without telling anybody because he was having some like medical issues. He had good reason to drop the class, but he dropped the class without telling any of his advisors. And then this semester started and his advisors were like, look, you don't have a grade on record for this one class. And he's like, well, yeah, I had to drop it because of, health issues. And they're like, that was a prereq to all the classes you're taking right now. And he's like, well, you need to come up with a solution for me then, because I had to drop it. And his philosophy is that other people, like that advisor, that's their job, is that they need to come up with a solution for him. And in a way, he's right. The advisor is supposed to help him be able to do that stuff. But at the same time, you have to have responsibility on yourself to make sure, like, if you dropped a class that was prereqs to other classes, you have to keep that in mind when you drop that class and try to make arrangements beforehand or make it known beforehand. So, I mean, people just need to realize that. Pay attention to the things you got to pay attention to make sure you can get through everything, because you can get yourself stuck in bad situations. I've made the mistake myself before, too. I'm not making fun of anybody. I did the same thing in my undergraduate degree. I actually went against what my advisor said in a class that I should take because I wanted to take another class with a buddy of mine. And turns out it was the last semester of the class I decided not to take that I was advised to take was offered because they were going through a curriculum reform and changed the class. And the class wouldn't count as a prereq anymore because of the description change. And I almost had to go back and take 3 classes to get back in line from missing that one class. Luckily, there was an error in the system, and the advisor had advised somebody that they could take the class, and it wasn't me, but it advised somebody that they were allowed to take the class the semester afterwards, and actually signed a document stating that they could do that. And they had to offer the class because otherwise that student was also thrown back for like 3 semesters to take these 3 other classes. So because they had to open up that class, I was able to get into it. And they're lucky they did too, because it turned out there was like 25 other people in the same boat, because we never run into that before. Like, you listen to your advisors and then you do things as you think you should do things. And for the most part, it kind of ends up working out if you know the system well enough. But when they're getting rid of a class in its entirety because of a curriculum reform and you don't pay attention to when the last time they're teaching one is, there's not as much you can do to make up for that one. It gets a little bit more difficult, so just pay attention to that stuff, guys. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to me talk. I will see you next time.